Shadowsle guys have been huge Spider-Man fans for a long time. You know, it was having worked previously on some of our extreme sports titles and Shrek titles, like this was a great way to bring sort of that kinetic action to the Spider-Man franchise. He's obviously very acrobatic, lots of bouncing around walls and moves, which is pretty similar to what the extreme sports guys do. So it was actually a really kind of fun melding of those two worlds.
Working early on, we were working on another project where we had this idea, coming from making a lot of action sports games, where you have that fluidity of movement, where you're on a skateboard, you jump off, you grind, you go up a half pipe, you keep your combo. We really wanted to bring that into an action adventure
game. In the story, New York has been invaded by an alien symbiote, and S.H.I.E.L.D. has declared martial law. They're evacuating people from the city. Luke Cage is gathering heroes in Harlem to try and fight off the invaders. Kingpin is getting a coalition of villains together to deal with the invasion their way, and it's really up to the player as Spider-Man to decide who's he going to side with to help repel this invasion.
What we've done is, not being tied to a movie, we were actually able to work with Marvel writers, working with our writers, our lead concept guy, be able to construct a story that really fit the gameplay. So yeah, in our game, you can have the red suit, you can use the black suit. When you start using the black suit more, you start aligning yourself towards more of the black suit. And in the story, there's different types of heroes, villains, that depending on what suit you're aligning yourself with, you play more in the red suit, you're more aligned to these heroes. You start playing in the black suit more, some of those heroes won't be your friend and won't help you, while other heroes and villains will, depending on what you do.
It's not just the moves that are available to you in each suit, but if you're doing the black suit moves, you're being a little bit more destructive, more brutal, and you're beating people up, and that actually is reflected in your morality meter. So if you're actually doing more combat in the black suit, the people of New York are going to be a little more leery of you. The heroes are going to be, when you encounter them, they're going to be more like, well, gee, that's not the way a hero acts. You may wind up, when you encounter some of the villains, you wind up siding with some of them instead of some of the heroes. So it's really not just a suit choice, but it's also affects sort of how people in the game perceive you.
Our main goal was have combat on the ground, the wall, the air, and do this full circle of gameplay where you can do all of that in one combo. You can take somebody from the ground, into the air, into the wall, back to the ground, air, and then fight in the air for as long as you have enemies and as long as you're good. So one thing we were able to do is, working with Marvel, pick those villains that would suit that type of gameplay. Like this type of villain would be able to go on the wall. This type of villain would be able to stay in the air. So we have some characters that we've brought back from other games, some new ones that haven't been seen before, and I think fans are going to really enjoy the character roster that we have in this game. The first thing that we noticed was the camera is basically the interface that the player has with the world. And one thing that we wanted to do is having this momentum-based combat, where you're swinging through the world, you see an enemy from afar, you target them, you come in and hit them. One thing that we really had to do is come up with a new camera system that basically assisted the player, tried to frame enemies and Spider-Man on screen at all times. We also gave the player the control to be able to Z-target, focus target on different enemies. So like you would in Zelda or Devil May Cry, you can focus on an enemy, you kind of pivot around them, and it's very key to those games. But in our game, it's essential that we do that because you're flying through the world. When the players see the focus targeting in our game and actually learn to use that, it will become essential. Another thing that we've done in our game is that we have an active player-controlled upgrade system where we have 60 plus upgrades. The player, through combat, through missions, gains experience. So when you start the game, you'll have ground combat. You can go hit people. On that last hit, it kind of knocks them away. You have to find your next target. do your basic combat. But when you get an upgrade for an uppercut, which then takes enemies into the air, it's kind of a state-changing maneuver. So now the players can hit people in the air. If they like to fight on the walls, they can spend their experience on wall upgrades. If they really like the new momentum-based speed attacks that we've come up with, they can put all their experience in that.
It's the most control they've ever had over a Spider-Man title. They really like it.